Hi, welcome everybody. I'm very proud of Giulio Ceppi, that is the guest of this interesting conference of this evening. I know Ceppi from many years. Many people speak about design thinking, design management, but Giulio Ceppi talk about I think was interesting about this field more than 20 years ago. So I think that he has a particular approach. It's a sort of a humanistic approach to design. It's a sort of holistic approach. And he started with this approach many years ago. He's an ex-student of the school, and I'm very proud for this. And also the approach of the school was a sort of a humanistic approach to design. And Giulio Ceppi, I think, is one of our best ex-students that in all the project that you will see this evening, you will see a particular interest about design thinking, design management, because design is not only related to object, but design is related to the system, to the sociality, to the city. It's a global approach, and I think that could be interesting. The school was considered the Bauhaus of Italy. It's interesting now, after coronavirus, after the digital revolution, to do a sort of new Bauhaus of design, because design it's not only related to interior, to car design. We have many masters in car, interior, visual design. And the aim of the school is to do a link between all these masters, but to do a link with the element, with the humanistic element, where you can do something of new. And I think that all the works of Giulio Ceppi denotes a sort of unique approach and an holistic vision that is the basic to produce innovation, not only in design, but also, I think, also in management, because the problem is to create value. And the approach of Giulio, I think that it's the good approach to produce value in a company of design, but not only a company of design. So thank you very much, Giulio, for coming. And now we will see all your process, because I think that it's a sort of process, no, of study that you did from 90. I don't remember when you was a student of the school, but there is
last century.
Last century. Okay. So we are son of the analogic world.
Absolutely.
So it's good because you are the bridge between analogic world and digital world. So I think that it's a good idea to do a conference with you this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antonello. Thanks for the nice words. Thank you very much to everybody. I'm very happy to be here because I really have a very important depth with the Scuola Politecnica of Design, because everything Antonello said, I don't know if it is true, but what is true is that the humanistic approach came from the school, and the idea that you always have to look to different disciplines in order to make a good design. And I'm a sort of bastard, because, you know, I did the visual design program in Scuola Politecnica, then I took a degree in architecture, the Politecnico, and then I took a PhD in design. So at the end, I was a visual designer, but an architect and an industrial designer at the same time, or I've never been one of these three at all. But I've been lucky to always experience the challenge to work with different people and different backgrounds, because this is really enriching you a lot, because you always learn. And my master, like Bruno Munari at the SPD, teach me to make a lot of questions, that in order to make a good design, you always have to start from questioning, arguing, making question to yourself and to other people. And this is the best key to intend design as a way of life, no? Because at the end in our job it's very difficult to divide your leisure time from your working time, your holidays from your passion. I believe if you are attending the school and you have decided to be a designer and not to work in a bank, nothing against with people working in a bank, is because you have a passion in what you do, no? And I will tell you just some example about my experience. Now I share my screen so you stop to see my face and hopefully you see my presentation. Also, if I left many projects into my presentation, but we will skip quickly many of these projects in order to show you the ones that are more interesting. And I talk about design direction because we can have many definitions about design direction, design thinking, design management. But as Antonello said, I believe design is not only about product, is not only about designing something, but is understanding transformation of reality, transformation of people, transformation of company, because everything is moving, everything is dynamic, everything is changing in time, sometimes slowly, sometimes, as we have seen in these last months, suddenly and without control. So design is about trying to understand the transformation that we have around us and give a new meaning to the transformation and making the transformation accessible to people and meaningful, obviously, for your client and the companies or the association or the foundation you are working with. So you always have yourself, you always have somebody you are working for, and you always have something that is supporting your job and is asking you to do something. No? And to me, this is already clear. In order to show that design is about relation, is about the fact that you don't design a product, but you design a relation. You design a dialogue between objects and people, between pictures and people, between a brand and its product. There is always a meaning that comes from a relation. And you have to learn to control this. No? So I like to speak about design direction and the metaphor that I always use. These are many projects and we will just see today few. Don't be worried, we have 1 hour, I know, so I'm not going to kill you with too many things. But the metaphor that I use to make you understand is like in an orchestra, there is the director of the orchestra, and the director of the orchestra is responsible for the performance, responsible for the orchestra itself that can be made of many people playing piano, violins, whenever you want, but is responsible for the public that is attending the performance, is translating or interpreting maybe Beethoven or Mozart, something that comes from the past, but that has to become present, that has to be part of a show, and is in a theater, is in an architecture, is into a frame, into a space. And probably these are the people paying him for what he's doing. No? But he has to keep all this together, because when you play in La Scala in Milano, he's not playing at Madison Square Garden in New York. Also, if you play the same Beethoven, but it's different, the acoustic of the theater is different, the people is different, the atmosphere. So you always have to use your antenna as a designer to understand this, because each project has a different time, has a different breath, has a different life, and you are responsible for this. No? So I will start from many years ago, but we will jump very quickly into time, because speaking about antennas, this project to me was very important, because this project was, you see, 1991, and was about, and I still have, look, this piece in the picture that I took on a railway track. It's still in my desk in my office, because this is a piece of plastic. Maybe you don't believe plastic can be so bulky, can be so heavy. Sorry, you can't touch this because we are in a virtual mode. But this is very matte, this is very opaque, this is very thick. Is different probably from the imagine of plastic that we have when we think about a pen or something very light and very, because this is a recycled plastic. This was the first recycled plastic on the planet, and is a plastic recycled by different plastics. So it's an heterogeneous plastic made of DNA of other plastic that has been useful and living before this piece or another piece. And my job, I was very young, I was just out of the school, but I was working with Bruno Munari and with my professor, so I was very excited about this, was to show that this plastic require people engagement, because you have to divide plastic. Now this is normal for you. You know what is the collection of waste and the difference between aluminum, paper. You do this in your kitchen now. But in the 90s, in 91, nobody was doing this. So my task was to explain to people that in order to have a sustainable material, you should do something different in your life. Because if you want to be sustainable, you have to change your habit. You have to change your way of life. You have to go in nighttime in the street and throw a bottle into a tank. And you have to do this. It's not that you talk or it's somebody else's problem. It's your problem. And you have to be part of this. So what we did in this exhibition, but also was an interdisciplinary project in engaging young designer in order to design new products with the aesthetics of these plastics that was very different from the traditional aesthetic of plastic. But also we engage a photographer. You see this sequence of picture, which is just a part of the full sequence, to show to people how plastic can become from a new product, a waste, and then another time, another new product, also with a second life DNA. Again, this looks normal to you because you have been already born into this, but I have to define the name of this material, I have to define a language, we have to define the color, the finishing, the potential markets. We had to go to convince companies to use this plastic instead, that was more expensive than a virgin plastic by paradox, but was sustainable. So this to me was the beginning of a new understanding that sustainability is a social cost, because you have to convince people, and this is a responsibility you have as a designer, to make people behave in a better way in order to have a better world. So when you design a product, you can't not be aware of this, because it's not designing a chair, it's designing what the chair means in terms of trackability. Where does the material of your chair come from? Where does the material of your chair will go when the chair will not be in use? This is to me same importance than the chair itself. Is the history of that chair and the history of his life. And this is what you design when you design a new product. You design a life. You design the life of people and you design the life of the product. Both of them, let's say, no? I did. So, why? Perché non mi va avanti? Aspetta. Sorry that I can't. I just have to do this, no? I moved it before, now it's no. Okay. Then at the same time, because I always had different visit cards, because I've been working in big companies and teams. I was part of Philips Design, then I've been part of Domus Academy research team. I had my own atelier on Como Lake. So for example, this is instead quite a self-made project. When the picture you see before were about a very large project with the client was the Association of Italian Plastic Producers and the main chemical companies in Italy. So it was a very important client and very important commitment. But at the same time, I was designing this small collection of wooden toys that I called Merlino. Merlino was the name of this magician that was able to transform himself from animal into vegetable, from tree into a horse, from a horse into a flower. So all these wood pieces come from trees that become animal, no? And these were made with wood from, how do you say, I don't remember the word in English now, but let's say sustainable wood, because we're not tropical plants or luxury wood, but wood that you can seed and cut and seed again. So with the sustainability label, I didn't use any artificial color, but just you will see in the picture, just a natural colors, so very soft colors. And what we did was to imagine that maybe, you know, for a child to buy a riding horse is not so exciting today. They wait for something else. This is something linked to your memory. These are parents that buy a toy for their child because they remind their childhood. But what you can do is to store and to disassemble this product and to store this in a bag with cotton, with a small box base, and you can keep it maybe for your grandfather, grandson, or the son of your son of your son. So this is something eternal. These toys are eternal because they never age. And this is also another important criteria when you design a product, to understand how much your product will last on the market. Because if you buy an iPhone, you know that the shelf life of this product is 1 year. In 1 year, you have to imagine this is obsolete. So your design will change. So you have 1 year to be successful. No? In this case, there is no such a constraint in time, because these toys are more linked to memories than not to real time. But there is a nostalgia market. There is a market about memories, and you can play on this. Well, so we decide to be sustainable, to be simple, to be basic, but also to be linked to memories. So every time you design something, you have to understand which are the values that are back to your product. Because if you are just based on shaping, on wow, this will last for a while, because people are linked to values, are not linked to aesthetics. Aesthetics, it's changing sometimes very fast. No, you can understand this or not, but it's very important. Now I go with some picture because I decide to stop when I know I want to show something different to you. But these are many projects based on sustainability, based on designing the identity of new materials, because what I also want to transmit to you is the relevance of materials, because I know that you start many times designing from a screen. So when you start designing just because of a shape, because you believe that the shape will solve the problem, but can't exist a shape without the material. So you always have to imagine how the material can become a shape, not vice versa, not how a shape can be made with the material, because materials at the end are the bricks of our existence. No? So we can be in a digital dimension, but let's say at the end we can control the physicality of things. Then the way these things are represented are very important. For example, this was an exhibition I did for Levi's many years ago in Milan, And Levi's, you know, is jeans, is the history of jeans. And jeans started as a working textile and as a working material, because workers were using jeans in mining, in countryside. So we designed these metal boxes to expose in a public place in Milan these products that were sculptures made in wood representing the jeans and linked to a campaign of Levi's. But why I'm showing you this? Because we put these 4 big lighting towers in Via Vittorio Emanuele in Milan, in an important piazza. But, you know, people in Milan, they walk looking on the ground because they are busy, they are speaking at the phone. So they didn't catch the presence of these 4 menhir, of these totems. I realized the design probably was not impacting enough. So what we did, we put, I go back to this picture, we put these big and large iron plates with sculpture carved on them on the floor, because when people were stepping, something was under their feet, and in that way you catch the attention on people and they realized they were in front of some sculptures, but the sculptures were visible from the feet. So this is also something important when you design an exhibition, an interior, to understand where is the key to bring the attention of people on your idea, on your message, on your solution, because sometimes it's not only sight, it's not only what you see. We have to engage the other senses, no? Not only touch or smell, but also the sense of walking, kinetics, the touch under your feet, under your shoes. You have to be open and creative into this, no? And to put together different perspective in order to be able to track and to underline what you believe is the message that you want to deliver, no? But in this you have to be very mobile, you have to be very smart, no? And this is just one of the many projects about designing the future, because many of my projects are not based on present, but are based on a 3, 4, 5 year scenario. And not because I live in a science fiction movie, but because this is a very interesting technique used by generally large companies to understand what people think about the future, because the future is not theoretical. The future is understanding people desire, is understanding people fear, it's understanding people attention and bringing them into that direction. So it's not the future coming to us, it's us going toward the future, because if you start to show the future, you can build the future. And in this period, this is Saks Fifth Avenue. So we are in New York. These are 10 window box of Saks Fifth Avenue, which is one of the most famous shop in the world. And as Philips, that in the 90s was maybe like Apple or Samsung today. So really a high-tech company able to forecast the future and to envision the future. We design many concepts. So I designed wearables, a jacket with Levi's that was already including a smartphone into the jacket. The only problem was not possible to clean it with the existing technology. Or we designed a tablecloth that was carrying energy in order to turn on a lamp or to keep the temperature of the wine into your glass, but not science fiction. Material and technology already existed in Philips, but not still available on the market. So the role of design that I like a lot is to help high-tech companies, but the same is for car companies, for transportation companies to show what can be done in 3 years, in 5 years, in order that people start to understand if they like the future or not, if they are attracted, if they are engaged by that idea, because the future can also scare you, can also be something that you, oh no, I don't want this, it's too much invasive, it's too much aggressive. So don't think that design is just about the present. You have to start to design the future, and you have to learn how to envision the future, obviously working with sociologists, with psychologists, sometimes with artists that have their own antennas. So it's something you can do by yourself, because nobody of us is a futurist. Future is also made of complexity and different people matching together and giving from their perspective a potential picture of what it could be. No? So, for example, in Philips, we have this approach that you see in this simple sketch. We said, okay, this was the house of the past. No? This is the house of the present, where you still have a lot of boxes. No? A PC is still a box. This is still a box. These are black boxes because you don't know and you don't understand anything of what's happening inside here. You don't know how does it work. If I have to ask you, no, how does it work a PC? Yes, there is an interface, but how does it work? This is the, so black boxes, difficult to understand. And we have our house full of boxes, a TV. Instead, the future is the merge of these boxes into something like a shirt, like, so I want, you know, to use, say, these boxes that was my grandfather boxes, and I want these boxes to become smart. I don't want a terrible plastic box that look like it was smart. But what is interesting is to merge the past with the future. This will be the future. It's not the future itself. It's the connection between valuable briar wood box, but smart. I open this and this is my cloud. Not an iPhone that is nice, but everybody has the same iPhone, everybody. This is already a commodity. This is not the future. Apple become very rich because they envisioned a future 10 years ago with this idea. But now we have to look for something else. And this is the challenge. This is what we have to do. And designers has a big role into this. No? I want to show you something different now. I go, you know, sometimes I work for important brands like Danese, that probably you know, many pieces designed by Bruno Munari, by Enzo Mari. This is a historical company of design that has been bought by another company. And this is another big business for us as a designer today, because in Italy, especially, we have very important brands related to design, but they were linked to families. Now the market is global. The challenge is much more complex. So there are big financial group that have a different approach to design and to business. And as a designer, you have to understand that to work for a family business is not like to work for BlackRock or Riverside or a big financial team, because their approach is totally different. So this is an interesting part of our job, because you become responsible for an heritage, for very important products like like this is the famous lamp, the Falkland, not designed by Bruno Munari. This is in all design museum of the world, no? And has been designed 50 years ago and is still on the market. But now the company has a different owner, has a different mission. So what do you do with this product? No? So how you make this product to be still contemporary? Maybe it's not to design the product. You can redesign it because this has been designed by Bruno Munari, but maybe you can change part of the material. Maybe you can change part of the color. Maybe you can change the way to use it into a room. Maybe today you can project a video on this lamp. I don't know, 50 years, it's a long time, no? So the taste of people is not always the same. A classic, it's a classic, but the meaning that the classic got in time can be different. So you always have to rejuvenate the classic, otherwise become obsolete. It's not a classic anymore. No? Look what Cassina is doing on Le Corbusier chair. They're continuously redesigning Le Corbusier color, finishing, accessories. So slowly, they are slowly changing. They are always the masterpieces of Le Corbusier, but they are changing slowly in time because taste is changing. So this is very important, and this is where companies today look for business. They don't expect that we design a new chair that is going to change the world. It's very difficult that this happens once every 5 years in your life. But you also have to be smart and to understand with your expertise where you can bring value, because that's our job, and where you can affect with your expertise and with your creativity the business. Because now I will tell you something that you don't like. I know this. But to have an idea, it's very simple. Everybody can have ideas. Don't base your creativity on the fact that you have ideas, because everybody can. I call my nephew, 5-year-old, he came here, he gave me incredible ideas. No, he's more creative than me in that sense. But our job is to carry ideas into reality. This can take 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but we are transformers, so we don't live on ideas. A sketch of a chair has zero value, doesn't have any value, if not because you really transfer your sketch into reality. But that's your job. It's not the sketch of the chair. This is only the beginning. Is to learn how to transfer this into reality and how to make this profitable for a company and, let's say, enjoyable by people. Otherwise, an idea is just an idea, and the value of an idea is zero. And everybody can copy your idea. Everybody can say, oh, that was my idea, not his idea. So don't be in love with ideas, because the ideas are around you. You can be full of ideas, but the trick is to learn how to make idea become reality. Don't believe it's the same things. It's very different. Otherwise, you will have a laptop full of render, full of sketch. You believe you become a genius, but nothing will go into reality. Instead, I took many years to understand how to transfer my ideas into reality. No? Otherwise, you are like a poet that writes poetries and keep the poetries into a desk. You are not a poet. You are writing poetries, but you are not a poet. You become a poet when you publish your ideas and you make a book and people read your poetries. Otherwise, to me, you're not a poet. I'm also a poet because I can write a poetry and keep it into my desk, into my drawers. But you become a poet if people recognize that you are a poet. You understand what I mean? So this is very different, but it's very difficult today. Why I'm telling you this? Because you have to learn to explain to your clients your expertise. So otherwise today everybody can be creative. Everybody is a photographer. Everybody now is a musician, because everybody can be a designer. Everybody can be an architect, and they will steal your creativity. So what I learned from Scuola Politecnica was, for example, starting as a graphic designer, the importance to arrive with a grid. A grid, you know what is a grid, no? When you make a poster, you design a grid, so you give order to your ideas. And when somebody tells you, oh, why you don't make this bigger? Why you don't move this to left? Why you don't add this? No, I can't, because I have a grid. I have to respect the grid, and this, to leave this space empty, like in the Beethoven music, will help you to read what you want to read, because if we fill all the poster with text, you can't read. And I say, this is a stupid example to say how it's important to use your tools, your expertise, to explain to people that okay, you are creative, but you know how to manage creativity and how to transfer creativity into reality. There is another quote of an Italian writer that I like a lot, that was Italo Calvino. He said that creativity is like marmalade, is like jam. Nobody eats marmalade by spoon like this. You need the bread and butter to taste marmalade. If you eat marmalade like this, it's not very healthy. Like, right, Antonello? You are sick, you become too fat, and you go to the hospital. You need the bread and butter. So creativity need bread and butter, need structure, need the capability to transfer this into reality. No? Otherwise, it's better to look the marmalade into the jar, but you have just designed a jar of marmalade and nobody will never taste your marmalade. So learn to do this and to be humble, because you have to be humble to do this. No? Okay, I go a little ahead because I want to show you this, because I also prepare a sample. This is another very important story in my life, because again, look, materials are full of creativity and full of potential. And I started to work, for example, with this material. This is silicon. And silicon is an incredible material because you see, it's very resistant, is flexible, is antibacterial. It resists 250 degrees. So you put this in the oven, you can wash it very clearly, doesn't age so badly. So what I did for this company called SV Goma, that was a OEM, was a third party's producer. So they didn't have their own products. They were producing for Alessi, Pedrini, Guzzini, but they were not able to explain the potentiality of the material because they were technicians. They were not designers. They were not able to show what it could be done in a different way. Instead, what we did as a designer was this, to show that you can design different products, that you are linked to, for example, an history of this material into design. This is the Divisumma by Mario Bellini, one of the most iconic products in the world. Fantastic. And so you have to understand that there are 32 kind of silicon and rubber and different melts. So we design a system easy to be understood by marketing people, by designer, into different markets, from kitchen appliances to car to safety. And then we went to Dainese, we went to Ferrari, we went to Alessi, suggesting new idea of product based on the material. And for my clients, this was a big hit because before they were linked to the purchase office, coming and say, oh, can you make 1 million of this? What is the price? €1. No, in Korea is 90, in China is 70, you are out of the market. But it's different if you go not only with an idea, but with the idea and, let's say, the knowledge and the expertise and the technical capability to realize the idea. Because I tell you, oh, you can make a cake and put this. Now you go in a shop of kitchen tools, it's full of silicon. But 10 years ago, zero silicon, because we introduced this into the market and was a big success. And we also won the Golden Compass for the, not for this, but for the silverish color into silicon. But to me, it was not just the invention of a finishing, it was the creation of a new market. And we have to partner with a company, and because they had the technicalities, but we have the capability to envision, to show what it could be done according to trends, according to people taste, according to the partner with some leading brands. So, and this is the role of designer, is to connect different people around an idea. It's not just to have an idea. Oh, I have an idea. No, you have an idea, but then you make the idea real, and you understand how to do this. No, it's a much more responsibility. It's much more responsibility. Can be a big company, can be a small company. There is no difference for me. I go a little ahead because otherwise I have too many stories. For example, this also to be more close to ladies and girls which are present, but for many years I designed many cosmetics products, but I always designed the cosmetics with architecture in mind and with electronics in mind, because we designed for this Italian brand a dedicated, a very specialized brand that is Debbie, that was the brand, let's say, for early adopters, for the young girls, for teenagers. When you are 15, 16 and you start to use makeup, you don't buy Dior, you don't buy very expensive French product. You start from something cheap. But we make this cheap exciting for elderly ladies, because we designed this product not with a Barbie mood, but with a very aggressive identity, like they were iPod or iPad. You will see in the next picture, maybe, you see, like they were products more closer to a smartphone than not to a product of cosmetics. And then we designed the logo, the graphic, the retail, everything, the communication, the website. So then we work on the whole system, as Antonello said before. But this was very successful because with this language, we connected the mother and the daughter, because they were using the same product. Because for the mother, this was exciting because it's transgressive. It's something maybe you use just 2-3 times in your life, in your year, because these products were more provocative in terms of color, in terms of ingredients, and so on. So you always learn from different fields, and then if you learn something into the fashion field, you can transfer this into the food market. And if you learn something into music, you can use this into transportation. So always keep your antennas very open and very wide. And then I want to show you something else, very different, which is, I go ahead, don't worry. Then otherwise we never. For example, this is a project that I like a lot because I saw there are a lot of people from East, from Asian countries, because for 2 years I've been the art director of G Project. It is a project that has been developed in Taiwan about the match between young designers and master and craftsmen. No? So to match new, let's say, language in product with ancient traditional techniques of working bamboo or paper, but trying to make a jump and not to just repeat the old tradition, but to use traditional techniques to do something innovative. So we designed a collection that then has been going around in different museums and in different places in the world, using, you see, bamboo, or using paper, or using wood, using glass, different technology, and trying to show how heritage can be sexy, can be seductive, can be contemporary. That, look, this lamp in bamboo, no? This is beautiful because it works on the flexibility of bamboo, but it's a very contemporary language because the designer was very young. So my role sometimes was to match the culture of this young designer that maybe were coming from Samsung or Huawei, so they never look at traditional material, and the master artisan that instead were linked to the same shape and to repeating a tradition without adding any disruptive ingredients. Instead, we try to to connect these two words into something unique. Or look, this chaise longue. This is always made in wood. No? It's sort of unfinished product, very flexible, no? With the memory of the chair designed by Frank Gehry for Vitra, but with a different solution. So very exciting and very inspiring. It's also, as I said before, connecting past and future. And this is also, just to finish, another interesting project that I did for a single person, for a collector of books. So this collector of books with a library of fantastic books, very expensive books, came to me and said, look, I have a problem. If I buy one more book, my wife will throw me out of my apartments because I can't buy one more book. So I have to create a book that is a book, but it doesn't look like a book. It was a sort of trick with his wife. He was a rich man, so he could play on this. So we designed a book, which is this one, that by the fact is a sphere, is a wooden sphere made of different pieces. Maybe I show you, I don't know if in this presentation, yeah. So the book, there is a book, because like in past time, books were rolls of paper that you were rolling in your hands. So the book is rolled around this very tiny titanium element, and then there are these wood pieces that are connected by two magnets that are embedded into the two heads. And then there is also a chip that makes this product impossible to be stolen, because the chip is like a tag always telling to you where is your book. And inside there are, 9 books that are linked to the complexity of human being. That's why we choose the shape of this rompicapo, I don't know, puzzle. It's a sort of 3 dimensions. It's very difficult to assemble these pieces. And this has been made by a master handicraft in Cortina. So very sophisticated laser cutting of this 9 different kind of wood for 9 different kind of books for 9 different stories. And then he put this book on sale in an auction. And then probably with the money, I'm sure he bought other books that he didn't show to his wife. But this is a different story to say you can find an interesting design project for a single person that has his own passion, like for big corporation like Philips or 3M. But you always have to understand which are the values and which is the proposition that you want to embody with your, it's not the solution is never in the form. The form to me is the result of a communication approach and to the value that you want to give in time to your product. Because for example, this is also endless. This is a product with no time. This is designed to, also because it costs 9,000 euro each book. So it's not something that you throw away in a week. It's not the Neolith plastic, obviously, but you have to understand this. And sometimes I saw some design that you realize that people has no time in their mind, just space. Instead, project is time and space. It's shape and the value in time. And today is very important to understand this, because time is very unpredictable also. And you have to try to design this. So just to finish, because I believe we are close to, and then maybe you have questions. For example, sometimes you have to design not a product, you have to design a tool. So it's very important to understand that as a designer, we have the responsibility to develop new tool. So tool means an instrument, something that helps you to do something in a new way. And one of the tools that I'm using in the last 10 years in a very successful way is the design for all approach. Design for all means to design for people that are diverse, for people that have disability, for people that are blind, for people that can't move in the way we are used to move, people that maybe are elderly or people that are too young. These are people that are not, let's say, normal, also because normality doesn't exist, but they are out of the standard and they can have a trouble with standard. So the problem is that you have to design for these people without dividing these people from the other. You have to design something that helps people to stay together and not to make the difference remarkable when difference are a problem, obviously. Difference can be a plus, but also can be a minus. No? So I create a group of 9 architects where probably you know many of them, like Antonio Citterio, like Michele De Lucchi, like Stefano Boeri. So I put together with a very important entrepreneur that helped me in this, in a team, and each of them put on the table a project that he was developing, and we try to use the design for all approach to improve their project and to make his project more inclusive, more accessible to everybody. I make the example of Antonio Citterio because Antonio Citterio was designing the lounge indoor airport for Qatar Airlines. So something very luxurious, something very sophisticated, something very outstanding. But for example, the counter that was made in Italy in bronze, the counter has a change of height. So it was not always 90 centimeter tall, but there is a point in which we introduce a step and the counter goes to 40, because if you are on a wheelchair, you can't talk with somebody which is standing in front of you with a desk of 90 centimeter. Or if you are a child, you can take your ticket. Like in an autogrill that I designed, you can take a fruit juice from a desk which is 90 centimeter because it's too tall for a kid. Instead, I want my kid to do this by himself and not to throw the fruit juice on his jacket. And the same is for the Emir of Qatar when he arrived with his mother on a wheelchair. He wants his mother to be able to take his ticket and to talk to somebody and not to be in front of a wall. No? And this is the same for poor people, rich people. So it seems a small detail, but as somebody said, in details, sometimes there is God. Or if you don't consider God before, God can be very afraid with you. So always think to God. I'm joking, but think to details, which is very, very important. Like in this project, this is a communication project, but just to show you the same attention, because I designed all the communication and the identity for the Last Supper Museum in Milan. And for example, we use a font, which is this one called Tesmi, which is a font for people with dyslexic, so that have trouble in reading some numbers or some letters, because Leonardo himself was dyslexic. He was writing from right to left, not because of any strange reason, because he was a genius, because he was dyslexic. So with this way, we help people with trouble in reading a signage system to be more comfortable, to be more included in the project. No? So this is something that you have to think always, also when you design for rich people, because everybody can be under an accident or can become elder, and this is very, very, very important. Then just to finish, I want to show you what also Rita mentioned at the beginning, that is these two two last projects I'm working now that are very interesting because they also start from material. This is a project that starts from mother of pearl. So a natural material that probably you don't think never about, and I also never thought about, because it's something linked to luxury, to fashion, to jewels. I'm not so interested in this. But our challenge was to save a village of fishermen in Philippine Islands that works on mother of pearl. So their life is based on the fact that they fish, they grow and they fish the shells, and they sell the shells to somebody to make something. So we decide to create a new market for this material in interior design, not just in accessories, in fashion. So my client that came from fashion, I said, look, you have to go into interior because quantity can be more relevant, because I see there is a trend for this. And we designed everything from the name of the company, which is Alchemia, that sounds like alchemic, architectonic, and our, you see, mission is to hybridize nature and design, because I pretended to get all the sustainability certification on the material in order to be sure that we are not fishing rare shells or we are killing any kind of biodiversity, but we help fishermen to live because they are also sustainable in what they do. We design a super toolkit that I can't show you in reality, but here you see I have all the sample, because you have to see this, you have to touch this, because this is really, these are really beautiful, these are really magic, because this come from the Renaissance, this come from the passion of prince and kings for shells, for exotic. So we have to awake this history that has been lost. And then we design, you see, many samples already, for example, hybridizing stones and mother of pearls and stainless steel, or mixing resin and shells. So to show that you can mix this material with other ones, no? And now we are designing lamps, we are designing cell phones, we are designing different products, we are designing USB pens, but look materials with lot of care, because from each material you can invent something new. And materials are produced, materials are always, let's say, artificial, also if this is a shell, but there is somebody growing the shell, somebody cutting the shell, cleaning the shell, making the shell something else. And this is a business, and this is a company. So you can start from any material, because back to any material, there is a cultural history as well as a business history. And this is where we become useful, when we can connect culture to business. So because I work for the future, but I don't want to lose my past. I don't want to lose the quality and the magic of a shell. Also, if I'm interested in having a new service on my iPhone, but the future doesn't mean that you lost memory of your past. No? This will be a big damage. And then, just to finish, this company I'm working for, and I'm the design director now. This is a Swiss company, and the core business of this company is to sell rebar, which is this of stainless steel for the construction market. So they sell, you know, this material. This is a stainless steel rebar, but the owner of this company, which is a very smart engineer, he started to design some product by himself. So I met him, and we decided to transform this into a real company, into a real business. He made the design of the chair that are nice, and some other pieces. And now I have a small surprise because look, I'm not sitting on an armchair, you see, but I'm sitting on one of these chairs that I'm using over to show you that are much more comfortable probably than what you believe when you look at them, because these are very basic products but very reliable, very strong, very iconic. Every architect love this material because this is using concrete to make any kind of architecture. We are coloring this in particular colors, and we are now aware that in this particular moment in which cleaning, hygiene, resilience, simplicity will become very important factors, this chair will be successful because this chair have this kind of properties. They are also very, you see, very clean and very simple in design, but they are very strong and they are very resistant. You see here a picture of a chair thrown into a swimming pool that I did to show that you can also use it into water. It's very resistant, it's very strong, and I hire a very important photographer to make a sequence of picture that shows how from scratch metal you produce the original rebar, and then you use the rebar to make a chair, and the chair can become another, because it's recyclable, another chair in the future. So always going back to the Neolithic slide that I show you as a first example, to me the life cycle of things, it's always very important. Can be short, can be long, but always think to time on the market, time of existing of any product, because if you don't have time in your mind, you miss an important part of our mission and of your opportunity as a designer. So I believe I've spoken for 1 hour. That is more than enough. I hope I've been stimulating your neurons somehow. And I hope that you have some question or something you want to ask me. So I will finish my screen share if I can. Yes. And so we go back to.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Giulio. Very interesting conference about your different approach to different clients, to different fields. So we saw that design is a global approach to life, and you are one of our students that worked about this approach. So you can write the question. Please, there is the chat, and feel free to type your question on the chat, and with Giulio will see your question and he will answer.
You can also disagree. I like very much when people say, "Oh, I believe what you said, it's all a shit." This is the most interesting part. You can say, no, you are totally crazy. What the hell are you saying? I don't believe one word about what you said.
Or, okay, there is the chat, but I think that if the student likes, we can also ask with the audio of the computer if you prefer.
Because if you don't have questions, it means that or you have understood everything or you don't have understood anything. There is no middle way. Or maybe I have to come back to the school again as a student. Or otherwise, it's time for a gin tonic. I don't know, up to you.
No, there are 51 students, so it's an interesting number of students. Please. I will
share
with the regia. Okay, any question? Okay, there is, do you see, Giulio, tu vedi delle domande?
See?
Yes, there's a question, couple actually, in the chat. How did you come up with the idea of the B-book beside the collector?
Because, let's say, when he said to me, you have to design a book that doesn't look like a book, I said, okay, but I can do this only if you tell me about which books we are speaking about, because now we know that books are something like this, and this is standard by Gutenberg, and so any content can go into the same format, let's say. Instead, my problem was exactly the opposite. I said, you have to tell me which is the content, so which kind of book you want me to design, and then I can design a different shape exactly for that book. And so he picked up 9 books, but these 9 books had the same, let's say, background, because, as I told you before, they were books on the complexity of human being, like Dante trilogy, no? That speaks about the complexity of the human being. So, or like Flatland, which is a book that speaks about the complexity of perception, of mathematics. So the topic was complexity. So that's the reason why I design a sphere that from one side is, let's say, very universal, but the sphere is made of different pieces that you have to put together in the right way. But when he said to me, design a book, my question was, okay, but tell me which book, because I mean, I'm not Gutenberg. I cannot invent a book that fits any kind of contents. So I have to design according to your contents. And probably if tomorrow we select instead the books that speaks about love, we make a different design. Now we have in our mind to make another collection, but the contents of the books have to help me to give a sense to my shape. Otherwise, I can decide that this is the shape of the book, and any shape can be okay, no? But this is not design. This is the Russian roulette, you know. No, you shoot by chance, and it's different. I hope I gave you the.
There is another question. Which is your favorite project amongst all?
About my project or?
Your project.
It's always very difficult to tell this because if you are smart, you always, normally designers say, oh, the next one, no? But I don't want to say the next one. I have to say that the project that I really believe it's very important is a project that I did for a very famous association of schools that are called Reggio Children, that probably you know, because also Bruno Munari, one of the famous professor of the Scuola Politecnica, was going there. And it's a place where they take care of children from 0 to 6 years, so toddlers, and I designed a sort of handbook, a sort of manual, in order to help the teachers and the architects to design better schools, to design richer schools, to design environment more attractive for children, but without giving them the solution. But this was the design of a tool, showing how to use the color, how to use the smell, how to give more tactile qualities to the environment. So giving them instruments, tips, suggestions, in order that they do this the way they want. It's not they say, oh, look, the school has to be this shape, this wall, this is the perfect school. No, you build the school, I just give you more chance to make a better project. So this to me is a very nice project because it's something very useful for other people. maybe, you know, the book is useful for the collector and I'm happy, but he's one person. Instead, what I did has been translated in Chinese, in Korean, in Spanish, in English, and has been used by hundreds or thousands of professors and architects in the world. And that's, to me, very nice. No? So I like to do something that is also democratical, that is accessible and helps to do something better. Also, if you are not the owner of the whole project. So I didn't design the school, but I designed an approach to have better schools. So I'm very proud of this.
There is a question from Giocondo Orlando. Do you think that design is still an approach that you can apply in every field with the same approach? Do you think that it's still true the Ernesto Nathan Rogers quote, "Da cucchiaio alla città, from the spoon to the city"?
I have to answer yes, because if you use the word approach, I totally agree. If you use the word method, I disagree. So there is no methodology. So I don't trust in any methodology. I trust in approach, because approach means that you have to use your sensibility. You have to use your antenna. Maybe you have a methodology, but it's not something you can repeat every time, pam, 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 like you have the perfect stamp and tum, tum, tum. If I had a formula for the perfect design, I will not be here talking with you now. I will be already in an island with a mega yacht, or I don't know, I will be very rich. Instead, I have just an approach. So I need to use my sensibility, I need to use my antennas, I need to use my weakness in order to make this more real. But I agree that once that you have an approach, you can design from a skyscraper to a spoon. It's not style. No, I hate style. No, one of my heroes is Bruce Lee, because he said, no, you don't have to have a style, but no, you have to understand who you have in front and how to solve the problem. It's not. I'm not that kind of design that is always designing everything square, everything there, everything black, everything like this, everything with a cut. Jesus, how boring should be their life. Maybe you become rich, but I don't want to be Mario Botta. I'm not envy for Mario Botta. I'm friend of Mario, but I can design his next architecture already. Also you, Antonello.
Siddharth Tomkar, the question is how to convert a thematic idea and convert that into a form that is functional and also the theme is evident. How you can combine this?
This is a metaphysical question, not easy to answer, but there is a word in English that we don't have in Italian, that is affordance. No? Affordance is exactly what you are saying. So to design something in order that people can understand what is it. That is not so banal, because you know, there is a famous commission in Italy that says, if you understand what is it, is a chair. If you don't understand it, is design. So many of contemporary design is making things crazy, is making things very fancy, very provocative. You use your girlfriend bottom to make a chair. That's very spectacular, no? But to me, this is not the role of design. I believe that, as you wrote, there will still be a function in what you do. Also, if the function can be very different. Sometimes the function is symbolic. Sometimes the function is communicative. Sometimes the function is operational. Sometimes the function is metaphysical. So the function is not the use. It's not just a technical operation. The function can be very different, no? But I can't tell you how, just with practice. You have to start doing this. I don't have the formula.
Sebastian Wong asks us, what's your advice to keep your creativity updated through time? To keep proposing innovative different solutions?
Always make questions. Be a child in the sense that, you know, when there is an age when children are 5, 4-year-old, they always ask you, why do you like this? Why this is this shape? So always ask you why. And go to your client, not with the solution, but with a question. When I go to any client, can be a very important company, can be a small one, I never go there, we say, oh, you know, I have an idea. No, I have a question. Oh, why you don't use this to make, I don't know, a smartphone? Oh, it seems stupid, but it's very different to go to somebody. Imagine that this guy make phone since 20 years, and you go there, and as a designer, you tell him, oh, you know, I have an idea how to make a new phone. No, you are not believable today. But if you go there and you make a question, maybe it's the same topic, but you ask him why you have never thought to do this. You know, I'm the son of a lawyer, so maybe it sounds you like a trick, but it's a question of humbleness. It's a question of going there, creating a dialogue, because a question is a dialogue. An idea can be arrogant, because people can be offended by the fact that you believe that you are smarter than them. Instead, if you go with a question, I mean, and the question can be very smart. If the question is the right question, you already have the answer in it, as you know. No? If the question is very original, it opens a new door. So my trick is exercise yourself in making question and understanding how to use this question to engage other people into something new. No? This is the important point, no? Because design is about people, not only the result of your design, but also the construction of the process of design, because you have a commitment, you have a technician, you have a marketing director, and you have to convince them, you have to talk to them, because it's not your drawing that will convince them, it's you. You speaking about your values and your idea. So Vico Magistretti, that was a very important designer, said that the best ideas are the ones that you don't need to design. You don't need to design because they are so clear, then you design it. But it's the way you propose the idea and the way you talk about the idea. No? This is very important. So it's something that the school can help you to learn, but it's a practice that the school have to teach you to do for all your life long. I always say to also when I come to the school, I have to teach you to become, let's say, a never-ending, come si dice, apprendista, a people that always is angered to learn, no? So you never stop learning. You have always to be curious about things. Curiosity is the key to everything. Curiosity. Don't believe that you have the solution, ever.
There is a question from Muhammad Adel.
Yeah.
How do you define a successful designer? And what are the best references that we should keep in mind in order to improve our skills?
I already maybe answer a little to this, because to me, I feel that you are successful when you are able to improve people's life. No? So if you do something that really improve people's life, I believe as a designer, you can be happy. And improve can be, again, a very open concept, because you can improve people in ethics, you can improve people in values, you can improve people in behavior, you can improve people in enjoying the taste of things in life. So it depends, no? Because I've been working in very many fields. So if you work for a fashion company, you are successful maybe if you make a mother and daughter to do something together. I'm happy about this, and they're not fighting to be one against the other. And sometimes a lipstick can be a connector, no? Can be something that creates a bridge. So I believe our goal is to create bridges, to create connection, no? But it's not the design of the bridge, it's the connection. As somebody said, architecture is not about building the bridge, it's about crossing the river. So if you have a smarter way to cross the river that is not a bridge, this is a good design and you are a successful designer. So, and you arrive to this through a question. If you make yourself a question, but do I have to design a bridge or can I go to the other side of the river in a different way? Maybe, no? Otherwise, you are always redesigning the same bridge.
Melissa Perez asked something about circular economy. Have you ever checked the life cycle of your products as a sustainable approach? I remember, Giulio, that you did many projects about sustainability and also circular economy. I remember also your exhibition 2 years ago during Design Week in Super Studio, where there were many projects about sustainability.
Yeah, always. I mean, obviously, I'm not able to do this by myself. You have to go to a company or to an association that will certify the life cycle of your product. But it's important, as I said before, that you as a designer pretend that the company.
C'è un problema tecnico. Giulio, devi accendere.
Unmute. Okay.
Now it's okay.
Okay. No, I'm saying that this is not only your duty, but it's also your client duty, because it's very important that you pretend, if you design a pen, that the company that you design the pen will be, as you will be responsible for the trackability of the material and the life cycle of the material. So you can say, oh, use a plastic from vegetable scratch. Then you have to be sure that the company will do this, will certify the material, and obviously the design will be different, because if you use maybe a bioplastic, you can have certain thickness, you can have certain colors. So this is always an important match. No? It's not just a technical process, it's not just a certification on paper, but this affects the way you design things, because you change the material, you change, and these also include, look, this is very important, also the social issue, because imagine what happened to Nike, no, when somebody discovered that the smartest and most beautiful shoes that they have designed is produced, I don't want to say in a cave, using 12-year-old children, but sometimes, no, today with the delocalization of production, you have these big issues popping up. No, so you discovered that Apple, to make computers, destroy a river. So this is a big problem. Obviously, as a designer, you can be responsible for everything, but you have to try to understand if your product is good. And is, let's say, clean. No, good means and safe for people. No? Because if you don't have these three criteria, buono, giusto, pulito, so beautiful, and this is your responsibility, sustainable, clean, but also good for people. That means you don't create any damage from production to use to recycle in what you do to people, not only to the environment, also to the workers. So we have to be aware of this. I mean, we are not politicians, we are designers, but you have to understand the complexity back to, because imagine that you design a beautiful pen and then you discover that was poisoning people, or that you have been using children in a cave to paint your, what is, it's not nice, no? So we have to be responsible for this. Also, if we are not the producer, but we have to talk to the producer in order that this should not happen, hopefully. And
you are not a politician, but probably politics needs design to do something of innovative.
That's for sure.
Of politics, of design of politics could be interesting to develop. There is an interesting question from Siddharth Onkar. How do you decide between the best solution versus the fastest or the solution that the client likes, but you know the product can be better? I lost a couple of clients because I was not willing to deliver a project I was not proud of.
Okay, this is a good question. So this is a question of approach, no? Because when somebody asks me to design a product or to take care of a company, what I did first is always say to try to understand the trends related to that market. And trends are based on business, so business trends, how the market is changing, technological trends, how the technologies are changing, and people trends also, last but not least, because this is the most important. So I always have a permanent system to watch trends in different markets. And that means that when I design a product, I already place my product into this grid, because you give to the product not only a shape, but as I said before, a last into time. So you decide if this product is ready to be produced now or maybe in 2 years. Or if you make it now, it will last 3 years or it will last 5 years. Because if you see that new technologies or new players are entering that market, so I always give a time value that can be wrong, because I can't do this always perfectly. But if you design different ideas, no, try to understand, because when you go to suggest ideas, you never go only with one idea. You have questions, and from questions pop up different solutions. So pick this solution and place this solution in a timeline. So, okay, this solution to me is the best to be done now, because it's cheaper, because it's quicker, because it's faster. And this solution, I know we require more time and maybe more money or more investments. So this is why I said idea itself has no value, because then you have to place the idea into a timeline, into a Gantt, into a business plan, into a strategy of a brand. And then the same product is totally different for one brand or another brand. You can't imagine today that, oh, I have a chair, and first you go to Cassina and then you go to a B&B to present your chair, like designer could maybe do 20 years ago. Because if you work for Cassina or if you work for B&B, you already know that you have to design for Cassina a certain kind of chair that have to be different from the chair of B&B. No? So you also have to understand the DNA of the company you're working with, and this is already a big filter, because each company wants to be herself or himself or itself. No? So you look for your identity as a brand, and as a designer, you can't suggest a product that is out of the brand of the company, because you are totally going in a wrong direction. So there are many assessments, no? There are many criteria that help you to understand which are the best. Then obviously there is the marketing director, the brand director, the strategic director. They will discuss with, but you have to learn how to talk to these people. Otherwise you look like an idiot, honestly. No? So you can't just look the product.
Buonasera Giulio. Okay, Bicao. Have you some fields or a project where you wouldn't like to participate by your personal beliefs? Grazie.
Obviously, I would like not to design an atomic bomb or to be part of the next chemical attack to the planet. No, I'm joking. I have to say that I have designed ammunition. I have designed a green ammunition for a company. So I don't believe there is bad people or bad companies by, let's say, principle. So I don't believe you don't have to work for chemical company or for diciamo, le aziende medicali or medical company because they are bad, no? Or tobacco company. I don't believe tobacco company are bad by nature. I believe you have to be very aware when you go to face some critical issue like ammunition or tobacco or drugs, or it depends to you, no? I'm always curious, so I believe that maybe you can also do something good into the tobacco field. It's not that because tobacco looks like the ugly and bad guys, you don't have to talk to them. They come to me sometimes. For example, if you take a tobacco package, they use paper, plastic, aluminium, 3 materials to store cigarettes. But I said them, are you crazy? So I went to them and said, but you believe you need 3 materials to package some cigarettes? You believe we can do this with 1 material that is more sustainable than having 3 different materials to be divided, recycled? So, okay, it's cigarette. I don't smoke, but you can improve, let's say, no, the sustainability of a product. It's not that you have to cancel and to say to people not to smoke. If you want to smoke, I mean, if you don't annoy me, you are free to smoke. Personally, there is no, it depends from the condition, but you know, maybe can also Ferrari come to me and say, oh, I want you to design a beautiful Ferrari, but maybe I don't want to design it for some reason. Now I don't know, but there is nothing I'm against since the beginning. As well, there is nothing that I'm convinced since the beginning.
Okay. No question. I have a question. Giulio, after this experience of coronavirus, I think that we have to do positive things for the future. And I think that we have to combine the teaching of coronavirus with the digital revolution, with a circular economy. If you will do a sort of a new manifesto of new design, what content you will put? It's a question. This is the time to do something of new, a sort of new Bauhaus, a sort of new manifesto of design.
I believe, to me, a key word is awareness, not responsibility, awareness. So that as a designer, you have to be aware of what you do. And then awareness means maybe responsibility, means consciousness, means sustainability, means to be politically correct. But to me, as we are bombed of so many things, we live in such a complex, dynamic, exciting reality, to understand differences, you know? To be aware, so to be conscious of what is the difference between 2 materials, what is the difference between 2 persons, what is the understanding differences, because differences are the key to richness. I mean, the world is global, but it's still very different, and you have to keep differences, not to be against, not to fight each other, but to understand and to respect other people. So to me, the basic criteria of what you are saying of this manifesto will be make people aware of the good and the bad, you know, aware of the problem that we have, aware of the risk to lose something coming from the past that it's so magic and we don't have to lose it, no? Like like in food, no? Antonello, you are a gourmand. You like taste new flavor, but you know that the tradition when it's linked to a territory, no? When you represent in wine, no? We say when you put the nose into a glass, you have to understand the landscape, no? You have to understand the work of the people. You have to understand what's around the glass, no? Not just the wine itself, no? So this is awareness, no? So this is make people happy with complexity. How to say, no? Complexity is not scaring people, but is understanding the richness of the world and not cutting some parts out and just simplifying in a way that is too stupid sometimes or too fast, no?
Thank you very much, Giulio. I will close with the words of Jessica Delgado that write, thank you very much for sharing with us your knowledge and the way you see design. It was very inspirational.
Okay.
Thank you, Giulio.
Thank
and ciao to the
Bye-bye.
students. See
Grazie.
you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.